This week on Gymwright Live, we interview Aaron Guyett on how to become a leader of leaders. Check it out. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Gymwright Live. I am your host, Marcus Gursey, and with me today we have the one and only Mr. Aaron Guyett. What's up, my man?
What is going on?
Stoked to have you on here, man. It's been a long time coming.
Oh yeah, I'm absolutely honored to be on the show with you.
Awesome, man. Well, honored to have you on here and excited to dig into this topic here today, as I think leadership is not discussed often enough amongst gym owners, and I think you have an immense amount of value to bring and things that our audience can learn from you here today on just how to become a more effective leader. But before we get into all that good stuff, man, tell us a little bit about yourself, man. You're founder of Leader of Leaders. You are founder of Battle Ropes Education. You're a combat instructor. You got a lot going on.
Yeah, man. I mean, just basically, if the door is presented to me, I walk through it and I try to make the most of every opportunity, just giving my best in every single area because, we fall to the level of our training. So if that's just what I do, then that's what I do. And that's kind of where all this kind of stuff stemmed from, being a founder of Innovative Results, selling that, now founder of Leaders, Battle Ropes Education, and then stepping forward even in the Marine Corps Reserves. Been able to actually take some of that money from the military and put it into my education, a bachelor's in business and then a master's in leadership. So yeah, I'm stoked to be able to have the opportunity to give my best every day.
Yeah, man, you've got a lot of good things going on in your life right now. I remember when we first met a while back, you were still running your gym, Innovative Results. And like you said, you just recently sold that last year, and it just seems like it has been a landslide of opportunity and positivity going on in your life. So I'm excited for you, and I'm excited to dig into how we can become better leaders. So tell me, I guess, what are we going to get into today? I mean, I know we're going to talk about the systematic approach that you have to intentional leadership, but why should that matter to a gym owner?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of kind of big words there, right? Systematic and intentional, whatever. And what does it all mean? Well, the thing is, like, people, if people, and people are our number one commodity, that's gonna be how we get away from getting sucked into the daily grind. Because what tends to happen is we think, balance. I'll have a perfect amount of segmented aspects of my life that I'll be able to pour equal amounts of me into. And I don't know, balance is bullshit. I think it's a dream that's sold that doesn't ever really get fulfilled. And so we need to be able to lean on people, create systems, build an intentionality in what it is that we're doing so that we can have the free time to experience life beyond just the daily grind of the hour by hour, service to clients and service to our staff. And all those things are important. But if we don't have intentionality behind it, if we don't have systems behind it, we're not going to be able to discover that freedom. So yeah, I think that we'll be able to get into the what and the how of that. And I think it'll be very helpful and people will be able to implement it right away.
Awesome. Yeah, man, the whole, I'm curious, the whole balance is bullshit concept. I mean, I know that, for all business owners and entrepreneurs, trying to balance, work and life and even within those categories, the subcategories, so that we can stay effective in our relationships and stay effective in our business at the variety of different capacities we have to be. What is that concept? Let's break that down a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's probably best broken down. I was given, just my 2 cents. I wasn't trying to be a mentor. I wasn't trying to be a leader or anything like that. I was just kind of like, I don't know, this is my take on this whole thing. Sarah Jameson, one of the master coaches for Onnit Academy, durability master coach, she just had a baby, right? And so obviously she's a mom and she wants to breastfeed her son. And she kept we would get on calls or we'd get in emails or whatever back and forth, and she would kept saying this balance thing, like, I'm just trying to balance this, I'm just trying to balance that. And I was like, hey, not to be offensive or anything like that, but I just think balance is bullshit. There's no way that you're going to be an incredible mom and also be this incredible durability master coach. You've got to figure out a way to either systemize or delegate or automate or do something to where it gives you time to be the mom that you want to be, which is your highest priority right now. I think that there are obviously different aspects in our life, but there's priorities in my mind. And this is obviously my beliefs that people tell me all the time, I'm trying to balance, and I'm not trying to tell people how they need to think at all. But just in my experience, I've got 2 kids, one on the way. I've during our first kid, I was doing my master's in leadership and owning a business, and I was the chief instructor for this cadre of instructors, combat instructors for the military. So I get it. Like, I want to be able to do a lot of things as well. At the same time, like, if I were to try to approach it where I gave an equal amount of me in every single one of those scenarios, I wouldn't exist. Like, I would be dead. I would be sleep deprived. Like, there's a million other things that would have happened if I tried to give equal amounts of me. So I had to prioritize, and then I would focus on one, deal with that, try to set it up to the most automated, delegated, systematic approach there, with, again, that intention that it is, I want to be a really good leader in that capacity. And then I would do the same thing with parenting, do the same thing as a husband, do the same thing, in the other areas. But I wouldn't try to think like, oh, if I give 2 hours here and then 2 hours here and then 2 hours here and then 2 hours, and do that every single day, that it would work out, because it just never did. And so it's clearly just an observation. There's not a whole lot of probably research or whatever behind that, but so that's where I kind of came up with, and then I just started saying it. Like, people would be like, oh, I need to balance this. I'd be like, balance is bullshit, man. Don't worry about balance. Just focus on the thing
that's most important.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny as you're saying this, it's making me think of, the same concept around multitasking. How people are like, it's about multitasking. It's like, and if you've ever really like mastered something or become truly effective at something, you've learned that it is not about multitasking. It's about single tasking the crap out of that one thing and avoiding as many distractions as you can. It's the same thing I teach with our time blocking approach, and teaching that whole concept of deep work, being able to just get totally in the lane of one thing and just make sure that gets completely done correctly, rather than trying to jump between 5 different things at once, and none of them really get done well. It sounds like that same logic is what's applying here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about it. If you try to get something done and you're also at the same time like scrolling through Facebook and then updating on Instagram, and it's like nothing's going to get done. Or maybe you've moved like an inch forward in the thing that you were trying to move a mile forward in the couple of hours that you had. Absolutely. And my mom says all the time, man, you're so good at multitasking. And actually Sarah Jameson too. She's like, oh, you're so good at I'm like, I am the worst. And I know I am. So I just organize as good as I can, as well as I can, in priority, and then just focus the crap out of the thing that I need to get done, and then go move to the next thing, and then move to the next thing. So it looks like I'm a multitasker, but really I'm just well organized and working my balls off when I get into that thing that I need to do.
Yeah, I totally relate, man. It's the same thing with me. I get it all the time. It's like, oh, you must be so good at multitasking. I'm like, dude, I suck at multitasking. If you put too many things in front of me at once, I'm just going to pick one and knock that out and ignore the rest. Yeah. So anyway, all right. So one thing I did want to ask you, man. So I guess, what does it mean to you to be a good leader? Yeah.
So I think I confused myself in thinking that leadership was about garnering followers, like getting as many people to kind of follow you, like, follow me. Like the Marine Corps has this, like, it has a book, follow me. And it's like, I'm in the front, like leading the charge, rounds coming at me, like people trying to cut my throat, whatever. And I'm like, follow me to this, like,
charging in for battle.
and I'm like, I started to reset that, and a lot of it came from taking the masters that I took on leadership. I started to see these like servant leaders, these sacrificial leaders, and it's like they actually created more of a following, and it was less about them trying to create a following than them trying to pour themselves, despite themselves really, but pour themselves into the people around them and make those people around them try to literally raise them above themselves, and creating leaders out of those people. And then that created this sort of avalanche of a movement. And we see that with Jesus, we see that with Gandhi, we see that with Martin Luther King Jr., we see that with all these incredibly gifted people that really, if you look at their approach, they weren't like, follow me and driving into the obstacle. They were like lifting people up, taking all of their energy to lift up the people that were around them. So then I'm like, man, I've keyed in on that. I'm like, it's about leaders of leaders. So it's about a leader spending his or her time really trying to develop and grow the people around them into leaders and give them the keys and keys to the kingdom, so to speak. Give them everything that they have, pour everything that they have into those people that are around them. And then, wow, it's amazing to see it, as you do that, people just start to rise up, and their level of leadership becomes incredible. And then what happens is then they do that same thing because that's what they know as leaders, because that was mentored to them, coached in them, taught in them. And all of a sudden now you've got this incredible movement, and it's now at this point it's delegated out of your hands. And you didn't like, hey, I'm delegating this task to you. All you did was just empower the crap out of them, inspired the crap out of them, taught the crap. You gave them the keys and then let them, find the car and start it, or find the door and open it, so to speak.
Love it, man. All right. So where can someone watching or listening to this begin? And what's the first step they can take towards becoming a more effective leader?
Yeah. So, Dallas Willard has a really good and very simple way to kind of, conceive this, and it's vision, intention, means. And so essentially, and we talk about it all the time, but this kind of makes it, I think, a little bit more practical. If you don't have an idea of what you want to move into, then how in the heck can you move? Like, you're not moving, you're just kind of flailing about in a circle. So first, a really well articulated vision. And the thing is, you don't have to make the vision perfect today, but you do have to have a vision. Like, okay, what is it that I'm trying to do and most of the listeners, obviously gym owners, what am I trying to do with this gym? And, we could talk about, market and, the perfect client and all this stuff. And that all pays into this vision. But it's like, hey, what is that vision? And chances are it's probably going to change and things are going to adjust or whatever. But if you don't first establish it, then there can be no intention. There can be no means. There can be no work or tasks that need to get accomplished because you don't know what you need to do to create what you want to have. So establishing that vision, or what I say is kind of simply putting it like, observe what's going on. Observe the chaos, observe the confusion, observe the solutions, observe the need, observe whatever it is, and kind of, okay, set that vision in your head, and set it. Don't like, hey, this is going to be a living, growing, and it will be a living, growing thing, but set it. Like, set it so you can actually get a bearing and move towards something. Accept the chaos that's going to be involved in it. Accept the hardship that might be involved in it. Look for the silver linings. Look for the positive pieces that are in that chaos and stuff. And notice, I think most important, notice the value. Like, notice the values, the value of yourself, the strengths that you have, the value of your team, the potential value that they have, the opportunity of the market, the opportunity of whatever it is, and get super clear on that. So then you can start creating intention. And the intention is like, this is my bearing. If we think about it from a navigation aspect, you have the land, but the land is confusing. Like you don't really know where you need to go. You know, you're seeing the forest, or you're seeing the tree in the forest, and or you can't see the forest for the tree, whatever. You're getting kind of confused on stuff. So then you pull up a map, and the map is like, that's the vision. So you pull up a map and you're like, okay, I know I need to go here. So basically my bearing or the heading is this direction. And so then you lay out that compass, boom, okay, that's my heading. I'm going to go in that direction. And then inevitably there's going to be an obstacle. There's going to be a mountain. There's going to be a river. There's going to be something that you have to go around, but you still generally know where you need to head. And so that is the vision, is the map. Like so you articulate that first.
Right. So where we're going and why for our
Yep.
vision, so that we can get buy-in to the bigger picture.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep. Exactly.
So that way we've got our common driver, and our, like you said, our compass is set. So once we have our vision clear, what's the next step?
Yeah. And I guess maybe just to kind of backtrack, I know you probably talk about like vision, mission, values, purpose statements, things like that. Like that's all part of that, right? But then the next step is really just taking that step. Like, you're not going to get there without taking a step. And the problem is, like, a lot of people are like, oh, well, I just need to have more contour lines in my map. I need to know that when I hit this mountain, that this is then the new heading, and then this is the new heading, and then this is the heading, and then it gets me back on track, and this is how many steps I take, and blah, blah, blah. And we get caught up in all of that stuff, trying to make things perfect, when it's like, no, at some point you got to take a step. So, okay, you've articulated the vision as best you can at this point. Now start taking action, taking steps, and the thing is, it's just, you don't have to make it crazy. It's not like you have to sprint there. People think like, oh, I'm gonna sprint all day and all night, and I'll be there in this many days. It's like, no, just slow and steady. So I get to travel now the world, and I get to teach metabolic pathway conditioning and programming, and I get to teach battle ropes to people in equinoxes and gyms around the world. And a story that I tell is the story of the tortoise and the hare. And the reason why I tell the story is I went to kind of a financial. I wanted to be able to be financially independent and build wealth. So I went to this financial guru, and I went through this whole, like, it was like a 12-week long kind of seminar process or whatever. And he tells this story where he went to a guru, so somebody way higher than even him, and he spent a whole day with this guy, and at the end of it, he asked the guy, he goes, hey, what's one piece of advice that you would give me for building wealth? And the guy goes, I want you to go and purchase a copy of The Tortoise and the Hare, and I want you to read it every day. And the look on his face, and the look on my face and my feeling, I was like, okay, this is dumb. Like, what the heck, And then he explained it. He's like, I thought this was dumb. So I was like, whatever. I went and bought the copy. I started reading it. But then the key is, he's like, I was reading it, and I kept reading it like every day. And what I realized is it didn't matter how many times I read the book, the tortoise always won. Didn't matter how many times I read the book, the hare never won. And he goes, and then it dawned on me, it was like, hey, in building wealth, slow and steady wins the race. So as he's saying that, like the moment those words are coming out of his mouth, for me, at this time I owned Innovative Results. I owned this gym. It was like, boom, this light went on in my head, and I was like, man, this is exactly the same in fitness. This is exactly the same in business. This is the same in communication.
It's everywhere.
Relationship. It's slow and steady, and it's not even slow. It's like, you don't have to think, like, slow is so subjective, right? It's just small, steady steps, or sustainable, steady, and steady is the key. It's like consistency, right? Consistent. And so then it affected me so much that now I go to all these different cities or whatever, and I look for used bookstores, and I go and look for copies of either Aesop's Fables or The Tortoise and the Hare. And so I have like 6 copies of it now. I even have a copy that's in like a different language or whatever. And of course I read it to my kids, and I just kind of let the story be the story for the kids, and they love it and whatnot. But the thing is, like, even all these different copies, it doesn't matter what copy, what language, whatever, like slow and steady always wins the race. The hare, tries this, speed. We know the story, right? And then falls asleep, eats food, like gets distracted, all of these things. And this is life, man. I mean, and this is business. This is the gym that you own. Slow, steady, sustainable steps. And your slow and my slow might be different. And my slow might be faster. People are like, you don't go slow. I'm like, yeah, I do. I mean, comparatively maybe to somebody
really
else.
Fast.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, I've chosen a pace, a speed that I can sustain. That's the key.
That's exactly it.
Sustainable, steady approach where I'm consistently able to put this out, do this, do that. So yeah, the tortoise and the hare, man, way simple story, but super powerful in all areas of your life.
It's funny you say that. I have to go through this kind of explanation or try to find analogies, and for some reason I never even thought to use the tortoise and the hare, but we deal with this in, working with gym owners and consulting with gym owners to help them kind of redirect their focus and get their businesses healthy again, or growing their gym that's, taking it from good to great. And when you look at those who are where you want to be, it's very, very rarely this like meteoric, acceleration from, hey, we started and next thing you know, we're wildly successful. It is about chipping away constantly. And when you make the analogy between, for a workout, it's like, look, if we're going to do a workout like Filthy 50 for you CrossFit athletes, that's a workout where if you come out of the gate full sprint pace, like Fran pace, yes, you may get ahead of everybody else in the room for the first 5 to maybe even 10 minutes if you're a monster, but the wheels are going to start coming off real quick, and you're not going to be able to sustain. And at the end of it, the other person who is just finding that sweet spot of, this is the fastest that I can sustain through the whole thing, and then maybe even keep a little gas in the tank to sprint across the finish line at the end, is usually the person who's going to end up getting the best score. And in business, it's so easy to get distracted with the shiny ball of, well, look, you could grow, triple your business in 30 days, and all these gimmicks that are out there where, like, I get the appeal, and not that those don't completely, that they don't work to some degree, but it's usually not appropriate yet for most, right? Yeah. And that's the conversation that's pretty tricky to have with people who are like, man, if I just need more people. And it's like, look, I hear that, but we're going to be building on a poor foundation, and you're building a house of cards. And so anyway, so I love the analogy here. So where's the next step? So we've clarified the vision. We start taking action, steady, consistent steps toward it. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, and then it's I do this concept of it's a hashtag next one best one, and it's this concept of giving your best. And of course, it's kind of like poetic thoughts in the shower that you write it down and you read it later and you're like, that wasn't really all that poetic. Like, of course you give your best, like, oh yeah, give your best. Of course that's what people want to do. But then I think the reminder is for this next one, best one, concept, the reminder is that, we tend to think, and this is the same thing with the tortoise and the hare, we tend to think that we will rise to the occasion. We tend to think that we have, and that's the beauty of our mind, right? The beauty of this creative thing that is being able to think about future and paint pictures and clarify vision and, all of these things. The problem is we tend to be optimistic about it. We tend to be, I think a better word is romantic about it. Like, oh, well, I'll spend this now because I know I'm going to make so much money, later because I'm going to do these cool moves and I'm going to crush it on, with this system or with that approach or with this podcast that I'm on or, whatever the case is. This is going to make me, kind of a thing. And if I can give any sort of advice, especially to my young 20s self. It's like, dude, wise counsel is wise because they've been down this road 1,000 times before, and they know that there's going to be, these enticing things on the corner, and don't go down those paths. Just stick to the main path. But the thing is, we don't rise to the occasion. We think we are going to. We think we will. But if all of human history has taught us anything, it's that we don't rise to the occasion. Those are the anomalies. Those are the one-offs. If it doesn't happen for 99.99999%, it's not going to happen to you, right? You are more a part of that 99.999% than you are part of the 0.000 whatever 1%. So we fall to the level of our training. And so I've seen this in combat. I've seen this in, traditional schooling, whether it was high school, a college, undergrad or graduate. I've seen this in training clients. I've seen this in staff and training staff. I've seen this in leading leaders. I've seen it in all across the board. We fall to the level of our training. So the beauty is, though, if I give my best, and the best of what I have, not the best that I ever was, because there's going to be moments where you're hungry, hangry, tired, pissed off, your willpower is gone because you used it up on your kid or whatever, or you used it up on your clients and now you got to be with your kid and help your kid learn something, whatever. There's going to be those moments where you're emotionally drained or whatever, but still, if I can give my best of what I have in that moment, then what's going to happen is it's going to be a trained thing. You will fall to the level of your training, and the level of your training is my best. I don't know how now to not give my best in every single opportunity, every single area of my life, every single aspect, to include, and especially for the gym owners, these small, slow, steady, sustainable steps that I'm taking toward my vision, on that bearing, on that path. I can't help but give my best because that's all that I've been training for the past, month, for the past year, for the past decade. We will always overestimate what we can get done in a week, and we will underestimate what we can get done in a year or 5 years. And so if that's the case, hey, next one, best one, I'm going to fall to the level of my training. And the level of my training is I have this intrinsic outpouring that is my soul, that is who I am, where I just can't help but give my best in every area, every aspect of my life. And that I think, like all three of those things, you can start tomorrow, and there's no time to start. Like, you have to start it today. Like, if you say, oh, I'm going to start it tomorrow, oh, I'm going to start it, next week, it's probably not going to happen. But if you start it today, and then you just take those slow, steady steps where you give your best in each of the moments that you have, like we were saying at the beginning, you have, this thing that I'm going to work on. I've got all these things that I need to do, but what's the priority? Boom, that's the priority. Okay, I'm going to work on this. I'm going to give my best until it's complete, and then I'm going to move into the next thing, and then I'm going to move into the next thing.
Yeah, man, that's some wise words. And for a lot of the gym owners who, that I've spoken to, and just a common challenge I hear is the concept of, how do I get the rest of my team to try harder and to contribute more to the cause that is the gym, and not just, clock in, clock out. And every time it comes back to a lack of either one or all of these steps. And most importantly, I think it's the lack of the first one. And having that clear vision, and not just, well, we want to run a good gym, or you want to have a paycheck, don't you? And it's like, look, that's not a vision. A vision is, hey, our goal is to raise the health level and awareness level for fitness in our local community here by making fitness and nutrition fun and attainable by anybody. And something to that effect, to where you can get them to buy into this thing, and now you feel like you're working towards a cause rather than they're just working for a company. And when there's that cause, that bigger driver there, these other pieces, I mean, yes, the next piece is take action and start actually moving towards these. But at the end of the day, if that first one isn't there, if you're not casting a vision, there's nothing to follow. Everything is just going to be basically, commoditized, if you will. Like everything is now just I'm just kind of checking boxes rather than I'm doing this with a purpose, right? So
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, you need to cast that vision so much that your staff starts to make fun of you for casting vision. Like it needs to be like, to the point where, and it's not to the point where it's a monotonous stress, like, oh my gosh, he's saying it again, or oh my gosh, she's saying it again, but said so much that they start like poking fun at you because you say it so much, because then now you know that they've remembered it. Now you know that it's in their head. The other thing too is the way our brains work, the way communication works. An incredible way to help people grab onto that vision is to just ask really good questions. And like sometimes they're directed questions, they're leading questions that are going to lead them into the vision that you've casted. And other times they're questions to help them search in their soul, like, do I really want to do this? Like, is this really for me? Is this really what I want? And the thing is, most people want to be incredible leaders. They want to have impact. They want to help people, and they want to get a paycheck, especially if they're in this thing called fitness and owning a gym or working at a gym. Like, most people want all those things. They wouldn't have come and joined the team if they didn't want it. But oftentimes they forget that, and then it becomes this daily grind. And so a simple question like, hey man, what was the reason that brought you here? What's the best part of being a trainer at this gym? What's the best part of connecting with clients? And just asking those questions and allowing them to fill in the more detailed and articulate parts of the vision. Like, you've kind of casted the structure of the vision, and probably in your head, in the gym owner's head, you have a very articulated, detailed version of what that looks like. Unless you've communicated every single paint stroke of that vision, they're not going to see it that way. So either A, you gotta literally communicate every single paint stroke, or B, you've got to allow them to kind of fill in that. And maybe it's paint by numbers, but allow them to fill it in. And asking good questions is an incredible way. And then the cool part is the questions help fill in the vision, which immediately allows them to take that next step of action, which allows them to want to give their best in that next step, so that they're fulfilling the vision that now they have in their head that's still matching up. It's still a Monet or whatever. It's still the same picture. But they might add a different stroke here. They might use a different color there, but it's still going to look exactly the same because you've done a good job of articulating that vision and asking good questions.
Beautiful, man. I love it. So I know that you prepared a little something for our viewers or listeners. You had a free continuing education subscription for your Battle Ropes program. Tell us a little bit about that. Plus, I know you have the post-traumatic growth event. What you got for us today?
Yeah, so they can hop on continuing education through Battle Ropes Education, which will walk them through metabolic pathway programming, and then utilizing the versatility that is the Battle Ropes. And most people kind of see it as like, oh, it's a string that you just wiggle around and get people tired of it. Then you're like, yeah, I got you tired, and then that's it. But there's way more to that if you understand how to measure waves and you understand power output, which everybody does from a mechanical physics standpoint. So understanding it from a wave physics standpoint, and it's easy, like the enthusiast level, the free level of continuing education. You can go to battleropes.org and it'll shoot you over there. When you click subscribe at the top, or you could just go straight to teachable.com and look up Battle Ropes Education, and it's there as well. So that will help you kind of actually use this tool if you have it in your gyms, use it effectively. And then even cooler, but this is way more than just an anteing up. This is like going all in. So I've been granted the incredible opportunity to be a cadre for something called The Process. And so we tend to look at trauma as this bad thing. Even in gym owning, right? We see traumatic experiences, crappy instances as like bad. But I disagree. I think the obstacle is the way. I think it's inevitable that you're going to hit challenges. You're going to hit obstacles. You're going to hit parts in your life, personal and professional, that are going to suck, nasty balls, and you just don't want to be in existence anymore. But the beauty is you can always find a silver lining. And I believe there is something that is called post-traumatic growth. So we talk a lot and we hear a lot, this post-traumatic stress disorder. And I think that is a thing. I'm not trying to dumb that down or say that doesn't exist. But I think equally and also there is something that is post-traumatic growth. And when you go through traumatic experiences, when you go through really difficult challenges, you can actually become a better leader. You can become a better teacher, a person, a stronger man, a stronger woman. Because of that, we actually put ourselves in those situations, and it's called a workout or training and fitness, and our body does adapt and become stronger because of it. I think it's the same thing with our mind. It's the same thing with our spirit, in whichever way you want to take that. And so I'm a part of something called The Process. You can find it at thespecialforcesexperience.com. This is not a widely publicized thing. This is a very inclusive, very exclusive, thing that's going to happen up in Canada in May. So you can actually go in and apply. You actually have to apply for it. You don't just automatically get to pay money and go to it, but you can apply to it at thespecialforcesexperience.com. And it's obviously going to cost quite a bit of money, but there's literally special forces guys and high level women and men, psychologists that are actually going to give you a discovery moment for who you are and what makes you tick, and then hopefully give you that traumatic experience and then give you the tools to create growth for that traumatic experience during the process. So those are the kind of the two things that I'm touting today.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so very much for sharing all of your wisdom and knowledge with us, and thank you for the gifts for everyone to go check out. And where can people find more about you and what you're up to, and more importantly, where you're going?
Yeah, absolutely. So battleropes.org is probably the kind of the easiest one, and that's the most active. Also, leadersofleaders.org. So a little bit less active on there, but still active and still doing a lot of consulting and side work and stuff to help people become that leader of leaders. And then, of course, Instagram at Aaron Guyett, at Leaders of Leaders, and at Battle Rope Exercises. And then the same thing goes for Facebook. I think it's at Aaron Davis Guyett on Facebook, and then Battle Rope Exercises, YouTube, Battle Ropes Exercises on YouTube as well. And then I think, LinkedIn, if you search Aaron Guyett, I'm on there. If you just Google Aaron Guyett, you might even catch the Naked Sailor.
Wait, what?
Maybe that's for a different podcast.
Apparently so.
On a different day, but there you go.
Right on, man. Well, thank you so much for, again, your time, your knowledge. Such a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure chatting with you and getting to rap with you. And for those of you who were watching or listening, whether on iTunes, on YouTube, or in our Facebook Live group, make sure to head over to Gymwright on Facebook. Give us a like, give us a 5-star review in iTunes, or on Facebook for that matter. And if you're a gym owner looking to grow your business and learn and be around other motivated gym owners, check out the network, our private Facebook group, where this episode or these episodes go live, so you can put your questions in while we actually do the shows on Fridays, and engage and participate and be amongst other people who are trying to build a better business. So Aaron, again, thank you so very much for being on, and we'll see everybody again next week. Bye-bye.